Hello, and welcome to the AE Vol 4 podcast, the show for all things related to U.S. Air Force aeromedical evacuation. I'm your host, Steve Hollenbeck, and in today's episode, we'll discuss aeromedical evacuation, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Let's go ahead and get started with some introductions. Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, good morning, listeners. I'm Lieutenant Ryan Fortune. I'm a flight nurse with the 139th AES. Been with the unit 16 years and deployed 4 times.
All right, Diane.
Hi, I'm Master Sergeant Diane Zolmo. I am a flight medic with the 139th AES, and I have been with the unit since 2008.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with our first question. Can you tell us what exactly the tactics, techniques, and procedures are, and who do they apply to?
In this scenario, actually refer to the framework that we use to accomplish our mission as aeromedical evacuation. And they apply to the entire enterprise within the DoD.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that we use them to actually apply the mission. So does that mean that this is how we go and operate? Like, what exactly is it? Can you go a little bit further in depth?
Yeah, so it's not exactly operational guidance by any means. This is the kind of strategic playbook of how AE operates UTC to UTC and how each one are different and how each component, i.e. the UTCs, how they integrate to the larger patient movement enterprise as a whole, not just Air Force, but Air Force, Army, Navy, across the spectrum, and how they can operate together. And it's how to start the UTC. How to establish it, get it started, because then there's tons of AFI AFMAN guidance on operations. There's a whole 10 series guidance on how to sustain it, but this is just how to get it started and how it fits, the puzzle pieces fit together.
Okay, so it sounds like you're kind of talking about doctrine. Is that what we're looking at here?
It's not exactly doctrine because it falls under the doctrine. So the things that we follow in the TTP come out of that Joint Forces doctrine.
Okay.
If you look at any of them, so you have your main TTP, which is the 3-42.5, which is aeromedical evacuation. And then those TTPs break down under that one. So you have one for the AIAT and the command cell. You have one for liaison teams. You have one for comm teams and a couple of other teams like CCAT. But if you look into those TTPs, they're just giving you responsibilities and roles, functions, and that kind of stuff, but they're not telling you how to operate. They're saying you have to do these things.
Oh,
so they're
okay.
that framework of how you're accomplishing your job. It doesn't define how to do those things. It just says you have to do them.
Right, and I think it's an important thing just to tie on to that you're right. It's for how you do that for each UTC, with the exception of a flight crew.
Right.
Because there's a million regulations on how flight crews go out and do their jobs. They don't need that extra management. So it's all the other ones with the exception of the flight crew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it feels like people can go a very long time in this career field and never hear about TTPs. Why isn't this like a bigger thing? If this is like very close to a source information of how we go out and do our job, or how we prepare to do our job.
So I think it is just something that's assumed that people know how to do their jobs because we have so much guidance and instruction in your DAPIs, your AFMANs, your AFIs, and those sorts of things. But nobody has necessarily considered where all of that operational knowledge is coming from and why you're doing things a certain way that you're doing them. It's incumbent upon the member as well as us, which is why we're doing this podcast, to explain that the TTPs actually give us the framework for all of the stuff that we're doing.
Where exactly can someone find these TTPs?
Yeah, so it's an open document. It's not the secret tactical doctrine that, the playbook, as it were.
Even though it says tactics.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's not the secret playbook, behind the scenes. It's available on EPUBs and for all the flyers who have their iPads, there is a specific folder aptly named TTPs. You go into that, and it brings up all the UTC's TTPs there.
I take all this time to read these documents, and do you have any real world experience of where these apply?
Yeah, I mean, I've mostly deployed out in flight crews, and I've supplemented AOTs in some way, shape, or form. But, I guess my personal experience with utilizing a TTP was more like exercise-based for local home station operations when we're doing field training exercises and we're trying to set up an AOT to launch 3 or 4 missions in a day or two, and what is our priorities within the first 24 hours of setting. We need to walk into a room and say, okay, it's time to start our mission board. We have missions coming down. We got to get crews and crew rest. What do I need to do as an AOT, and where do I begin?
Yeah, that's a good story. Diane, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a couple things, and I just want to say that that's a really good point as far as exercises go, because this is actually giving you all of that information. So if we look at, like you said, the one for the AOT, what do we need to run in AOT? Well, we know how to do the operations in an AOT, and the TTP for AOTs tell you the space that you need, the floor space that you need to store all of your equipment, and what office supplies you're going to need, and all of those sorts of things, and memorandums of agreement and understanding to make sure that you're supporting your flyers and the rest of your personnel, so all of your loggies, and knowing that they need to have a certain amount of space and that they need certain accesses and that kind of stuff. So yeah, and it's difficult when you're trying to plan an exercise in a couple of days when this is meant for long range planning for the entire enterprise.
Yeah, and it kind of highlights that it's not saying these are the phone numbers you need to call, but these are at least the groups, the people who you need to be networking with to make your job happen. Because although we try and be as self-sufficient as possible, we're not completely 100% independent. We need to rely on outside supporting groups like maintenance and age and ATOC and other groups like that. And it kind of highlights who needs to be talking with who, so we can make communication happen to make the mission happen.
Yep. And it's like you said, it's that foundation. Personally, I actually really got to dive into the TTP specifically for the AOT when I was deployed out to Travis Air Force Base. And we walked into a situation where there had been the initial stand-up of the AOT and that operation for the NPC mission and the training mission. And none of it was really followed. And that was clear when we walked into the offices, and there were 2 people that were taking all the phone calls and managing everything. And everybody else was just sitting around doing nothing. They hadn't assigned jobs that are specifically in the TTP stated that they need to be assigned, like a CELO or STANIVAL representative. Those things weren't assigned. Your narcotics, your patient safety, that's prescribed in the TTP, and that hadn't happened. So myself and Colonel Legault and a few other people who had never set up an AOT before, and thank God, we had Colonel Legault with us because he is a subject matter expert in this situation. We relied heavily on the TTP to make sure that AOT got righted and was running the way it should be to manage crews.
That's interesting, because I was on the other side at Kelly dealing with the same situation, much smaller operation, just being a 3-person AOT, if you will, but also filling a lot of those roles, mainly just recovering the missions, but saw a lot of the same problems. So having that background knowledge of the TTPs really gave us kind of what you said, a prescription of how to start up the operation. So it's not necessarily how to go and fly and take care of patients, of like, what are all the other things that I need, like as a chief nurse or a duty controller or as a liaison or whatever it may be. I thought that was very valuable of having that background information.
To all those points, I think this conversation is excellent because as we look forward to the unknown of the future, and how do we posture ourselves as an AES for future operations, we might be put out into places that are not established, might be a little frosty, might be warm and sandy again. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be able to have this foundational core knowledge to bolster our ability to be able to deploy out into the middle of nowhere. Just like after the hurricane rolled up in Haiti and we deployed out a liaison team, it was a comm team, I believe. And they were first boots on the ground. And they established comms and operated as a AE comm team on the island for all patient movement off the island. And so we might be working in that same type of an environment of just initial boots on the ground. And how do we get ourselves started out of nothing? Because we're going to probably end up setting up a tent and got a radio, a generator, and ready, go.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great and valid point because we've been operating out of a steady state. So we've been doing the same mission, give or take 20 years.
Yeah.
And we're at a point in history where that may be relevant. It may just be just a hurricane or an earthquake. And, so that those are very unique skill sets that we'll have, but it may be something much bigger.
Yeah.
And it may be remote. We may be in the Arctic.
Only constant in life is change, they say.
All right, Gandhi. All right, so kind of what I was saying before this podcast, and it's really hard topic to talk about because, Diane mentioned that we could talk 8 hours or we could talk for 10, 15 minutes. And, to keep it brief, we're keeping it closer to that. But it's hard to talk about. So it's something that you really need to get into and read to understand. But I have a couple fun questions that I can ask you guys if you're interested, doing like a closing game.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Send it.
AE tactics and procedures lightning round, where you both race to answer questions correctly.
How do we buzz in?
I don't know. Make a buzzing. Yeah, do that.
I'm gonna turn your mic around.
Make a buzzing noise. I don't know. Apparently you're gonna earn points. I'm not gonna keep score, but we know who the winner is gonna be. The individual with the most points at the end of the game will secure the ultimate bragging rights. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
And if I say no.
Then we're done here, I guess.
Oh, well, let's go.
Okay. All right. How many AE patient movement precedences categories are there?
There are 3.
There's 3.
Urgent, priority, routine.
Okay, I'm going to give that to Ryan, the
Yeah.
complete answer. Okay. True.
Sorry, I didn't buzz in.
I know, I'm like, you said categories and then precedents, and
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
like, but they're...
I'm sorry. It was written weird. That's why I
'cause then
kind of
was trying
paused
to,
in
like,
there.
one,
I was like
1A, 1B.
precedence categories.
I'm
Okay.
like, I can't math that
Sorry.
fast.
We'll move on.
Okay.
True or false? Evacuation
False.
plan. Oh, Jesus. Evacuation plan should integrate and include ground ambulances, rotary and fixed wing evacuation platforms, crews, and attendants.
Buzz.
Oh,
That's
man.
true.
Okay. Redeemed
That
yourself.
was good. That was smart.
All right, next one. Which aircraft is known for its capability to perform both strategic and tactical air medical evacuation missions equipped to handle a large number of patients over long distances?
Question.
Go ahead.
Are we talking inter-theater or intra-theater patient movement
That definitely makes a
operations?
difference.
Because I'd make an argument, I'm sure you'd probably agree, that all our primary airframes would fit that bill.
Yeah. Well, what's the best one?
I mean, obviously, the dirty 130.
C-130, obviously.
All right, then let's go with that one, all right? All right, true or false? AFIs primarily provide the what and the why behind Air Force activities.
Buzz.
Yeah, all right. We'll give you that one. All right.
Mm.
Which one is an AE planning and support consideration? There's 4
Ooh,
answers. Okay. A is proximity to the nearest dining facility.
definitely.
Definitely A.
Yeah.
All of the above.
Availability of aerial port, airfield capability and security of landing zone, and diplomatic clearances.
Buzz.
Go ahead.
I already talked about it earlier. It's C. You know, we might be going out into unknown places. We're not going to set up an operation on the top of a rocky mountain ledge. Like, we want to be able to be close to.
I mean, you're not
airfield.
gonna. I may.
You know what I'm saying?
I
though,
do.
Right?
You need to be secure.
We need
and
to
you need to be close to the airfield.
Exactly.
Because you got patients that got to move if you're in that situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was it. That's all we
Agreed.
got. That's all I got. So, thank you today for spending a few minutes with us and your insight with this discussion of the complexities of the TTPs. Where can we find them again?
E-publishing.
Yeah,
And
go out.
on our EFBs for those who have EFBs.
Yeah, go out, take a look at them, read through them. Good bathroom material when you have an opportunity.
Or if you're having trouble sleeping.
Yeah,
They're
that'll-
great for
they'll
that.
they'll make you sleep really well. So thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Diane,
Of
and
course.
peace.